Okay, it's looking pretty good. So Jim, why don't we get this started? I'll take us through the first set of slides and then I'll hand it over to you and we'll be on our way. So again, on behalf of myself and Jim and the landscaper noise that may be intermittent throughout today's session outside my window, I'm Patrick Dunphy. I'm the VP of Marketing and Alliances here at Anark. And with me today, why don't you say hello, Jim?
Yeah, this is Jim Martin. I am the Director of Customer Partner Engagement. And if you've been at any event since the beginning of the year, you probably saw me there. Good to have everybody.
Multiple times, likely. Excellent. All right. Yeah, thanks for joining today, Jim. So what we have for you in store today, right? This is our summer 2026 update overview. And so we're trying to take you through all of the exciting product updates that we have. So lots of live demos. Jim's going to take us through them. I'm excited to see them and ask questions throughout. So down at the bottom, just quick logistical item, and then I'll go through the rest of today's agenda, is there's a Q&A panel in the lower right of the application that you're in with us today. So if you take a look at that panel, you'll be able to ask a question. Jim and I will be able to see that question. And as we get going here, we'll be able to answer your questions live as we go through these demos today. All right, so what do we have in store? Well, in terms of live demos, we have a quick update on 3D PDF, refresher there. We have standalone HTML, digital data packages that Jim will take you through as well. Some exciting new technology that we have there in terms of ultra performant portable data packages. And then we'll go into how you can use that same capability, the same underlying publishing engine, to power a connected version, a web-based version of those digital data packages for digital data exchange. And then we'll close it out with the latest set of features in our Anark Collaborate product around connected collaboration. These are connected collaboration spaces, the flexible areas that allow you to collaborate on any number of data exchange and collaboration use case out there. And then Jim will bring us back into the details of things around recent publishing engine updates. So the publishing engine, the workhorse behind the scenes that's responsible for producing all of this rich data that people can collaborate on. He'll talk you through a few of the updates there. And then we'll get into recent events, overviews, blogs, details of what's happening, where we'll be next, where you can find Jim at the next event coming up, and we'll close it out for this month. All right, let's get into it. So those that I've been speaking with recently have seen this quite a bit, and I've heard that this really does a nice job of reflecting the world that's out there, which is I'm starting to refer to as the two building problem. And really what it comes down to is you have all of the engineering data in the engineering building on the right, you have everyone else who needs it, and you have all of these tools that shouldn't be used for data exchange and collaboration, really building a tenuous bridge across the two that's just set up for failure right from the get-go. And the result, of course, is delays, rework, risk, all of the things that manufacturing companies don't want to see happen. And that's what we're out to solve. This is how we're solving it. And this is the high-level version of what Jim's going to take us through today in the live demos. And it really is the connected digital thread, where you have folks in the engineering building using CAD and PLM systems, and you have everyone else using other tools, including ERP and MES systems, supplier portals, and all sorts of areas where information goes but doesn't necessarily connect because of the necessary and sometimes unnecessary evil of Microsoft Office. All of the Office stack in terms of Outlook, Teams, PowerPoint, documents, Excel, that's where all of this data eventually goes to hide in screenshots and exported tables. And what we're doing at Anark is bringing that all back together, so that the product definition, the manufacturing context, the quality insight, and supplier collaboration capabilities that we're looking for on the left come through to the people that need it, so that they can get a shared understanding of the data that's being exchanged, as well as be able to take action on it. One level down from that in terms of the how we do this is by connecting into all of the data on the left-hand side and using our publishing engine to bring that through into an array of experiences, connected data and collaboration product experiences on the right-hand side that power a whole host of use cases. This is everything from technical data exchange to work instructions, first article inspection, delivering and producing customer deliverables for customer contracts, supplier collaboration, reviews and approvals, a number of use cases, and we'll go through some of those examples today. And just the teaser, we'll be going much more deeply into this in our next webinar towards the end of July. So why don't I hand it over to you, Jim, and you can take us through the setup here and then walk us through some of the demonstrations.
Yeah, thank you, Patrick. So I've been talking quite a bit to this slide as we went to Realize Live Siemens event a couple of weeks ago, and before that, many other events. And what we want to continue to emphasize with everybody is that there still is a really strong need for standalone technical data packages that have been represented by our 3D PDF format for close to 20 years now. Compliance grade, the ability to get really good MBD content out from whether it's NX or Creo or 3D Experience in the case of beta technologies and composites, a lot of different formats, a lot of different versions going back through history. Still proving out that we can get NX and Creo 3D PDFs out as well, if not better than the actual vendors themselves in a lot of cases. And so those are still very important. And I just want to go ahead and just share a couple real quick. We're not going to spend a lot of time looking at those. A lot of conversations about what a 3D PDF should be or what a technical data package should be. And I always say, what do you want it to be? In the case of the Navy and NavAir, we've seen this many times, but I had to reemphasize this at the Siemens event with some of my people that I've known over the years that they say, yeah, we're not ready for MBD yet, and that's fine. If you're not ready for MBD yet, your cover sheet can look like a drawing, have a feel like a drawing, but we can automate the creation of these documents with the information through templates and publishing that puts information exactly where it needs to be in automated, repeatable forms that greatly accelerates the time to create these and the ability for somebody to understand them. And for somebody who's culturally not at the MBD level yet or really using it, they can see this, be comfortable with it, get the information they need without anything else but the Adobe Reader. And for people that are getting more comfortable with model-based approaches, we do have a standard model-based view on the second page. So we can mix and match these any way that people really want them to be. And this is, in this case, is a Creo model. These cross sections and the different things that we're showing are honestly very tricky. It's very hard to get the model views out in a consistent state with the cross-reference of the different GD&T that are in there. These are things that we continue to show. This 3D PDF's been around a couple years, but it's still surprising. We need to continue to remind people that this is not going away, especially if you're in the DoD world. There's a lot of new contracts that are coming out that are specifying a 3D PDF as a deliverable. They call them 3DIs. Now, another variation, and this will be the last 3D PDF that we'll show, this is the action engineering valve. So we have the model views. This is the same thing that we've been showing in different formats. But we've also done here, ported a QIF file and made a static variation of being able to pick on the product characteristic tags, and it will cross-highlight that information, activate the different views that are important, and you can see how it's highlighting the tag. And it also has some information about the tag and the inspection information that came as part of the QIF file over here on the right. So this is a little bit more of a traditional 3D PDF, but it's been modified slightly to show our ability to handle the import of STEP AP240 Edition 2, which is, and in addition to import QIF and cross-match that with PIDs or persistent IDs that are used to relate information from engineering and design downstream to inspection. So these are what we are calling 3D PDF technical data packages. That's the terminology we've used for quite a few years. They're slightly more static and baked in, but they're still very dynamic and usable by a lot of people across the different scenarios that they need to use them. I'll pause there and let Patrick take over, and then we can start looking at some other dynamic data packages.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the next one up that you have is the standalone digital data package. Maybe you could talk a little bit about the differences between the two, and then go through some of the demo. That'd be great.
This is an example of our partner Belcan, who we work with on an assortment of different things. We're a little sample gear that they put together where they're going to put together a more complex model. This is what we're calling a digital data package. And again, we have the model views, we have notes, we have datums, we have cross relationships or the ASMEY14 behavior to be able to relate the annotations to the underlying geometry. This is an NX model. They do a lot of work with Siemens customers, but we've also attached a QIF file. Our friends from CapVidia are on the call, and we've got an MBD Vidia file also attached. We don't tell people what a technical data package can be. Or a digital data package in this case with the HTML standalone file. It's a standalone HTML file that we can send to people. We have a zip file with examples that we can send out and make available after the call with a little video that explains what they're looking at. The behavior is very dynamic, and the way that we build these is all based on standard HTML technology without plugins or add-ins. So we can start to accelerate what we can do with the creation of this type of content. And then we flip over to the action valve assembly that many people have been seeing and we've been showing extensively. And again, there's views at the bottom. It could include notes. We can cross-reference. Let's bring the valve up. We can cross-reference it with the bill of materials. We can change it. We can resize things, and these are the type of things that you can do with standard HTML technology that it's a little bit difficult to do with 3D PDF. So we call them digital data packages. I sometimes call them dynamic data packages. So we have attachments that are important to deliver to somebody, the QIF files. We can even generate a 3D PDF and send and attach it if we needed to, because maybe somebody prefers that format.
So while you're doing this, Jim, if you can go back to that last one, I just wanted to flash up this view real quick so you can stay on the screen. But I'm just going to go back and forth between these two for a minute because there's an important distinction in terms of what 3D PDF is capable of and how we offer up those templates and how we can templatize the content and lay it out in a variety of different user interactions. And then there's the widget/panel-based model that we're using for HTML, which we've developed specifically to, first and foremost, mimic all the goodness that's come from 3D PDF over the years, and that's shown here. But then going beyond that, these widgets within the panels, and I can have you call these out and kind of highlight them when we go back, Jim, is what really powers the flexible nature of the content experiences as well as the use cases that can be covered by this HTML content as a standalone artifact, as Jim is showing, or as a connected collaborative artifact that we'll show in a few minutes here. People can go in and create markups, track all of that, output all of that information, and resolve issues and tasks along the way. But this concept on the left-hand side, we haven't gotten to spaces yet. We'll show that in a few. That's new. But what we wanted to be able to show you here is there's recipes and templates which help the publishing engine drive all of this high-quality content into the digital data package or 3D PDF technical data package. But then when you get it here, these panels can be arranged in any number of scenarios. And then each panel can consume a widget. A widget is some sort of feature that if we come back over here, on the left-hand side of this, obviously the model viewer is a key component, and that's a panel with a widget that allows you to view the content. But down along the bottom, if you click through some of those views in this, Jim, yeah, so if you go through the model views down at the bottom, those model views, that's a different panel, and that's a different function within that panel. If you wanted to set this up to have this over on the right-hand side, as Jim will show in the next example, you can rearrange these. And so the amount of flexibility that you have with these HTML standalone digital data packages, it really, the sky's the limit in terms of enabling users to work the way they'd like to, arrange the information in the way that they want, and then publish these in a format that's tailor-made for each of the use cases in a much more rapid fashion than hand coding a lot of details into a template. Back to you, Jim. You keep going through the examples. I just wanted to make sure that we had that down there as we go through this to show what we're doing with the content that really powers a differentiated experience for each and every user.
Here's a little example that we've been showing people just to show the power. This is still standalone, but let's re-emphasize that if we have hosted HTML or connected, it's exactly the same. I can start to do things like, okay, for this panel, I want to have that panel show this view. And then for this panel, I can go through and have a different data view. So I can have as many relationships between structured information. When these are published, we know the different views that are important. And so those MBD views are published, but other type of structured information could be bill of materials, it could be requirements, anything that we can structurally kind of organize into a panel here that either has a text list or a visual list like we have here with the views, we can cross-relate that information over to one of the other panels. And so this gives everybody a lot more flexibility to basically present and cross-relate the information that they need. In production, you may not want everybody to be able to do this, but as you're working through the process of determining what your panels should look like and how they should behave, you can decide how many you have, how big they are, what the spacing is. So there's almost an infinite number of ways that you can organize information and cross-relate that information and then present it. And the really interesting thing is, a little bit of an AI topic is that our team in developing these, once they've started to point to and develop panels for basic behavior, they can point and generate new panels and new ways of displaying information literally in minutes. It's become very quick now, the way that we can do these. Where 5 or 10 years ago, an HTML template was a bit of a project that was very static at the time. Now they've become very dynamic and a lot easier to do. Any thoughts on that, Pat, before I go ahead?
I would say the only thing is this has become extremely fun to demo. When someone has a meeting with us, they ask for something that this can do, and it's pretty quick turnaround time, as Jim mentioned, to be able to showcase it, right? It's and then once we have this into the hands of customers, they see the same thing, which it's just goes back to our mantra of fun to drive. I think I had that in the LinkedIn post recently, and this starts to make the UX aspect of how you present the data to downstream users really fun to drive.
And talking about cross-relating information, again, this is a dynamic data package, digital data package, using standard as part of the import to get this information in. Our partner Action Engineering was able to create some product characteristic tags that are associated with the annotations. This is in Creo. I can go through and I can pick a QF file that is the inspection results, and it will go through and cross-relate that information. For example, here, I can go through and pick these PC tags, and you can see where it's starting to cross-relate and highlight PC47. There's selected QIF metadata that's associated below. And so now we're starting to see these scenarios where we can really have a lot of different relationships between the type of information that people are looking at and that's important to them. Just looking ahead to the GPDS event coming up in September, we've got a presentation that we're going to do that talks about PID accelerators. How do you accelerate the use of these persistent IDs that are in standards and other areas to accelerate the ability to troubleshoot and find problems with manufacturing as related to inspection results, and these are the type of things that we're talking about, and together with the PETAs and other standards organizations that are also working together with us on these. So yeah, it's very exciting to be able to do this. If there's another file that was important to bring in, you could perhaps import a requirements file. And as long as it's got some type of structure to it, a lot of these are XML based, you can go through and extract the information and relate it to something else that you're viewing. How do I relate the requirements to what I'm seeing in the design at this point or in the manufactured part? So these are the type of scenarios that we can build up pretty easily these days.
Very good. Do you have other examples here, or should I move into the next section?
Yeah, go ahead and move into the next section, and we'll get back to the connected digital experience.
So here we are, connected DDP, and really connected data packages. And what you started to see with what Jim was just showing you is the standalone portable, drop that to anyone and they open up and have the same web app experience that you have in our Anark Collaborate tool, right? So now you can go take that and connect it. So if I go back one step here, going from standalone digital data packages, standalone data packages to connected data packages is simple because it's the same software. One essentially operates in the desktop environment and one is hosted on a web server, and you can access this over the web and get the exact same experience. So as you look at this is a connected experience, a screenshot from one of our connected experiences. And this is the same thing Jim was just looking at as a standalone object. In fact, the way that this works today is you can download these. You can also automate the publishing of these, but you can essentially download these as HTML packages and away you go. So maybe you can take us through some of the connected experiences here, Jim, and walk us through some of the web-based examples.
Let's bring up that same window, and then I'm going to open up a different tab. So this tab is actually connected. So we have a sample area that we work in. And just to show you, for people that have seen Anark Collaborate in the past, you'll notice that the UI is completely different now. We're trying to streamline the content, and we have the content of these concept of spaces that Patrick talked about, which are specific working areas. So here are some spaces. Let's go through, and I'm going to double click and open up a space, which involves one of the DIS models that many people have seen over the years. And then we start to see this connected environment where we can cross-relate, we can create 3D annotations that stay with the model and show exactly the relationship between the comments and the replies and the dispositioning of issues that can now be very dynamic. And so each one of these comments has a different viewpoint that's been captured together with a flat to screen 3D annotation that we can do it. Here's a reply that's going to point to the same one. Just some examples of what this looks like. And then you can see here, we can really point to anything that's visible on the screen. Now we can point to annotations, highlighting, measurement results, different views. We can have cross sections that work in different ways. So these are all things that we can dive deeper, and we're definitely interested in getting people's data, publishing it and showing them how this would work in a space. Let's go back to the spaces. Like we've got the drone that last year we had some webinars that had the drone, so we just republished it into this new environment. These are different type of content items. So the content item could be a legacy drawing. We know that people have legacy drawings, a lot of them, millions of them, literally. And if they're not comfortable with MBD, this type of space environment can work just as easily with legacy drawings that have been digitized, documents. The relationship between the comment, the replies, and the different ways that resolution could occur can work back and forth between the 3D MBD content that's been marked up. You'll notice here we've got just it's kind of a PowerPoint type markup style. In this case, when we rotate it, it disappears, but when we go back to the comment, we can see it. So you can see the visual behavior of the window to be able to highlight things and then relate the different markups to the tracking of what's being talked about and how it's being dispositioned is all there. And then we can start to do really interesting things like set priorities, tag them, set a status, define who the author is. We can cross-relate it to different components. If you've got tags or meta tags that are coming from PLM, so you have a tracking approach that already exists within your IT systems for dispositioning, we can inherit those and use them and apply them here. And then you can sort them, you can search, you can do all different things with them. So here's one that Patrick just added. You can see the date and the timestamp on it. It's marked as critical. And when I pick it, you'll see here it's basically showing an image of something that he marked up. And so I can go through and pick that image. And now this is when we talk about we continue to enhance spaces and the interactivity of it. This is what we just added recently, which is okay. Now we have an image that is either captured from the screen or it could come from an external source that allows you to literally mark up anything and throw it into one of the comments that's associated as part of this dispositioning activity. So you can see here, if I am done looking at the image, I can hit the X and go back to my view. And then we can go through and add these at any point. So there's a couple ways to think about this. I can pick this one here. You'll notice this one doesn't have an image that was captured, or a screenshot, we call them. In this case, it does. I can activate the comment. Maybe I just need to look at the information associated with this comment, or I can go in here and pick, and it shows me a little bit more of what I need. And when I have the information that I need, I can just get rid of that and go back to work. So there's a lot of different variations of how we can mark things up. And, just a quick tour up here is selecting things, to be able to select according to the bill of materials, to add a new comment on the right, to do a 3D model annotation. So I can go through and say, hey, I want to go through and make a model annotation related to this component. And then when I pull it out, you can see it's added a new one here. This is a bracket. And we are adding the capability to be able to have GD&T and other type of annotations in this type of comment and showing up in the model. But the cool thing is that I can be anywhere, and as soon as I activate it, it shows me the comment. It keeps it flat to plain when I'm in that comment, and then I can go through and I can work on it, or somebody else who's looking at it could give a reply, and that reply will show up to priority. And then one by one, you can work through issues in a generic environment that crosses over Siemens, Dassault, SolidWorks, any of the different CAD and PLM systems into this neutral, pure web-based environment for collaboration.
So I just replied to your comment, or the markup that you just made. I just wanted to highlight another feature, right? So wanted to ask the question because this actually came up, but can we mark up GD&T as well?
Yes.
I also think I'm really funny, so I just typed in live demo after all as the next comment down.
Let's go ahead and do that.
If I can just point out the differences while you're switching over to another one, why don't you start that up and get into that space?
Mm-hmm.
But down the left-hand side for me, unlike Jim's view, I actually configured my view to show me all the different data objects that are associated to this data package. So the reason why there are multiple sets of markups against the drawing, against the model, is that's all in the space. It's all part of the data package. Any data that's in here is fair game, which is part of the reason why we added this snapshot markup that Jim showed as well, where we can drop in a snapshot of the screen and then highlight various components. Because if you think about all the data components and all the data that may come from PLM or other systems, all that table data, the example Jim showed earlier with QIF, all of that data may be most quickly marked up as a screenshot today, dropped into a PowerPoint, and then off it goes into nowhere land in the everyone else building we were showing earlier. But now we're bringing this all together so that all the components that we have, all the capabilities are in one place and in one space that drives collaboration for all. So I'll switch back over to you, but why don't you show us another example in terms of GD&T markup?
Yeah, here it is. I just went through and added a 3D markup here that's associated. This is a reference geometry. So we could be questioning whether it should be reference or not, depending on, and you can see how it's highlighting the reference dimension. It's highlighting the related geometry on the top and the bottom, and that's all there. It's flat to screen, and it shows up as a comment over here. So we can work back and forth between a lot of these different examples. Yeah, here's an example here. Paul Peralt is our guru with a lot of this. He's on vacation, but he actually went through and just kind of made a little examples on a simple model to show all the different ways that we can mark things up. So we're highlighting the datum, including this dimension with a snapshot in this case. When I rotate the screen, the snapshot goes away. When I hit the comment, it comes back. So we're constantly relating the visual and the related 3D annotation to the comments on the right, and everything is anchored. He says anchored to part. We know now this is actually very tricky. Some new development that we had to do last year to make sure that we are anchoring things properly on the surfaces and the edges, because it's not a trivial manner to do that actually. You can go through, and here's one here where no burrows and debris are allowed. And again, we're highlighting the annotation, or in this case, a simple note that is pointing out the underlying geometry that's been highlighted, and we can zoom in and do what we need to do there. Here is yet another one with a snapshot view that I can bring up, and we've kind of zoomed in here and did a quick snapshot to make sure it was clear what we were looking at. I can get rid of that and go back into this view.
One note on that snapshot markup that you just showed that I think is an interesting nuance that sometimes gets missed when people see this the first time, is that snapped to the view that you took the snapshot from. It's super interesting because you highlighted a few different things to create this snapshot and then maybe circle and arrow something, but it brings you back to what that was. And that's a unique scenario where you certainly don't get that with PowerPoint, but you certainly don't get that with a lot of tools in terms of how this is all remembering what you were looking at when you looked at it, but also offering up the ability to take a screenshot so you have a closer in view and get all the details that you need to convey. We do have a question though that came up, Jim. The question is, do the markups retain their associativity with features from revision to revision of the CAD file? And so I think to answer this question, maybe you could explain what we're looking at in terms of this content, whether this is actually the native CAD or not, and then talk about how we can manage the revisions as either another object or, overriding the file depending on business rules.
That slide that you had earlier where we talked about authoritative items or derived items being used as part of the publication process into either 3D PDF or HTML content, whether it's standalone or hosted. This is a HTML that is derived. And so again, it's going to be a lighter weight faceted approach. And so if there is a new revision that comes out, we could overwrite these existing content items that we've published if we wanted to, or we can have a new content item.
And I just popped up the slide for you while you were going through that. So essentially on the left-hand side, we have all the content that we publish into our HTML format. And what we're looking at today is all of the resulting HTML formatted content.
Yeah, and then if you go back to the Spaces 3D markup discussion, we can include as many published content items as you want within an individual space. So this is really up to you to decide how do you want to organize this. You can have folders. A folder could be related to one part that has multiple revisions that you're commenting on, or you can just have individual content items out here. And again, content items can be 3D models, it could be 2D drawings, it could be documents, all these different ways that we can mark up content. And then how that's managed behind the scenes in your authoritative systems as to when is something triggered, what triggers a publication process to create a new version or revision that gets pushed out to Anark Collaborate and then gets associated with the space. These are all things that can be automated, and our customers are automating all the time anyways. And this just feeds into that entire process.
Yep. And so the short answer to Stephen's question is yes, the markups retain associativity to each revision, where each revision has its own set of markups associated to it, right? And so we have some customers that are looking at this from that point of view, and other customers that are simply updating the revision. So then you have a new clean sheet after all of that has been saved to a downloadable file.
There we go. So yeah, you can see all this information here, and then you have a download CSV option. And what we continue to tell people is that eventually when something has been resolved, so for example, you're going through, let me get out of here, close that up. And so you've gone through and sorted through all the different issues that are related to this content item that is tied back to a specific item within your PLM system, perhaps. You can go through, work through the resolution, mark it as complete, and then go back here and go through and download this. And right now it is a CSV that has basically all the comments and the timestamps as to what was done and when it was completed, any notes that are associated with it, so that you get the visual and all the dispositioning information associated with it. Because people need to archive all this. They may not necessarily have this space exist forever in Anark Collaborate. During the duration of the dispositioning, it will be very active. And then when it's done and you're moving on, you need to be able to archive these and push them back into systems of record so you can revisit any decisions that were made in the future.
Yep. And what you aren't seeing, I just popped the slide back up in the meeting space here, is the closed loop feedback, decisions, and lifecycle traceability coming from these connected data spaces, the connected collaboration spaces, and feeding back into the authoritative system, right? So this could feed back towards change management. This could feed back towards archiving, like you said. This could be for any purpose to package up that content. And so we've just introduced the downloadable asset with reference integrations to authoritative systems that we have for the major PLM systems that could be sent back to the PLM system. And there's a whole variety of options there in terms of how you close that loop with all of this content as you drive it home.
Okay,
great.
That's all I had for the demo portion. But yeah, this is where we feel like we're just getting started with a lot of this, even though we've made a lot of progress since late last year. We started to re-architect all this, and it's quite exciting, all the different ways that we can start to present information and collaborate with it.
Certainly is. All right. So great stuff. Thanks for taking us through all of that. Let me get to the next set of slides that you are going to take us through. But before we do, I just wanted to give some directional ideas here in terms of where we're headed with all of this, right? So if you look at the content that we showed today, right, we talked about the panels, we talked about the widgets. Jim was just showing us a variety of spaces that are configured for traceable collaborative use cases. There's the feedback discussions. We didn't actually get to the rev comparison, but we can do that if anybody's interested. Obviously, Jim can take you through that in a separate meeting. And then the content items within those spaces. So this offers up the flexibility to have both content sharing in terms of the content on the left side with flexible HTML templates with panels and the widgets contained within, and then flexible spaces to collaborate on any number of use cases. So why I say where we're going. Where we're taking this is we are looking at how our partners and our customers and others can build widgets and apps with an app development kit that would allow for a whole host of additional capabilities. We also have a lot of examples. We're not covering this today. We have a lot of examples that we've put together recently for customers on work instructions that look really, really interesting in terms of how you can utilize this for work instructions and a whole variety of applications for these collaborative spaces. So this is where this is all headed. As Jim said, we've made huge progress in terms of enabling the use cases that our customers have been asking for in collaboration. And we're very excited that we got to show a lot of this today. So thank you for doing that, Jim. But you still have more to go. to close us out today is going through some additional product updates. So why don't you take us through that as well?
For about a year or two now, we've been publishing all of our release notes in addition to the downloads for the installation and licensing for each release. And 467 just came out back at the beginning of May. So one of the things that we did complete, we had a webinar about it earlier in the year, was Anark Publish Gateway. We started off with early in the year being able to publish directly from somebody's desktop while taking advantage of having MBD access and other aspects of Anark Publish, but not needing a connection to a PLM system to do that. And so we kind of wrapped up most of the functionality that we were initially planning for Anark Publish Gateway. It now supports 3D PDF and Anark Collaborate publication. You're on your desktop, you have a folder of files that you want to have published into a 3D PDF or Anark Collaborate content items, and you want to be able to go ahead and do that directly from your desktop without needing to have access to a PLM system. And there we go. There's a kind of a view of it. We don't expect that everybody will use this. Some people are very interested in this, and we've had quite a few customers that are using it. And then we have others that prefer to have most of their Anark Publish execution go directly from either Windchill or the Team Center integrations. So we're updating Anark Publish while at the same time, if it's not a desktop scenario, we're also upgrading the Team Center releases that we're supporting. Skipping a bullet there, Team Center 2512 now supports both NX and Creo data publishing. It's been supporting NX for quite a while, and so that's kind of fleshed out based on customer requirements. Customers are driving almost everything that you see here. Kind of talked a lot about content-centric collaboration that we're calling it, all the different ways that we're marking up and reviewing it and collaborating with spaces, templates, and that just continues. A lot of that is driven by customers. Underneath the covers, we don't talk about it all that much, but the tech stacks involving spatial interoperability, Parasol, the hoops, and other MBD adapters, cleanup and refinement is always underway every release. We occasionally go backwards. We need to add NX 2506 to an older release of Anark Collaborate because the customer needed it. So we did. We went there, and also 2512. And then we discovered things not working well because we're using some of the toolkits and the APIs before many others are. When we put together our MBD adapters or our PLM integrations, there was a kind of a multi-month issue that we discovered with a bug. PTC, we worked with them, they fixed it, and then we were able to make sure that everything worked properly after that bug was fixed. Our previous release notes had more details, but 467 kind of wrapped up all those issues that we were running into. You can always go out to news and you'll see all the release notes going all the way back roughly 2 years now. They're going to be out there. And then coming up, we are going to have another webinar on July 30th. And this case, we're going to get deeper into the templating that Patrick was just talking about, some of the toolkits that we're going to start to make available. One of the things we will get a little side demonstration on is how we're using AI now to generate some of the panels and the widgets that are used to drive HTML. It starts to become a lot easier to go through and use existing and feed existing templates in the way that a certain customer is creating it using whatever their AI tool of choice is. And then their development team can now point to their existing templates and decide how they want to go through and more quickly develop new templates and layouts and things like that. And so because it's an open technology stack to be able to do all this, we're going to be able to show that. And then in August, we're going to revisit the digital data package project that our German partner has been working on for quite a few years, and how that cross-references model-based systems engineering along with AI accelerators. They have Rolls-Royce that presented on how they're layering their AI on top of this digital data package with Anark Collaborate in the middle of all of it. And then we start to get to September and we go back to in-person events at the PETA's board meeting that we're a part of. We're actively a part of the STEP standards community. And GPDS is a really good event that we attend every year and we sponsor. So you can always go off to the resources, see the latest blogs, and we keep adding those as we go along.
I just wanted to bring it back to the unnamed partner. Maybe we could name the DDP partner that we have at the event that we went to earlier this year for them.
Yeah. Engineering Methods. Engineering Methods is driving, it's called Cascara, which is a standard that is essentially crossing the boundaries of requirements downstream to different either mechanical, electrical, software related aspects of how those requirements are carried forward. So it's more than just a geometric with annotations type standard that STEP AP242 is. It incorporates existing standards and rolls it up into a framework for managing cross-domain standards and disciplines. And there's a lot of interest in that. And the Rolls-Royce presentation that was made at the meetings last month in Europe, you can see in one of the panels, Patrick wrote up EPD 2026 on the lower left, what we learned about the future of digital engineering. That one kind of goes deep into that event and what Patrick was discovering over there.
Yep. And then while we're on the topic of partner events, definitely wanted to mention Ariadne's MBE forum. That's
yes.
This fall as well. It just didn't make the cut. I see the white space there where we could add that bullet when we distribute these slides. But definitely an event worth checking out is the MBE forum in Västerås, Sweden. All right. That, I believe, is all we had for today. Lots of great customers out there doing lots of great things. We're listening. We're hearing the feedback. We're excited about the future of what we showed today and its potential. And we're really looking forward to getting this into your hands, into your line of sight. And so anyone who wants to see this in more detail, get a more personalized tour, mention some use cases, we show you how it would work. Definitely schedule some time with Jim to do so.
One in particular that I do want to answer is when our MBD adapters or PLM adapters are updated, that's all the plumbing that's going on in the background that we continue to update for generic publishing out to 3D PDF or hosted HTML that also extends out to standalone HTML. So we're updating and making sure that Creo, for example, Creo 9 through 12 are currently supported. Creo 13 is coming. We just had a meeting earlier today talking about we're going to add that. So using that as an example, and NX is very similar, we have an entire team of people that are just focused on the MBD adapters or the PLM integrations, and they're doing their thing. And when the publication process executes, we are pulling from that information and then creating these generic standards-based technical or digital data pack.
And so the short answer is because those are supported, all the formats and all the use cases that Jim showed today are now supported. Is that the fair summary statement there, Jim?
Yeah, exactly. And it is, yeah, there are certain versions of NX and certain versions of Creo that we actively support because we just have to keep up with the latest ones, but we obviously can't support every older version. We're looking at the customers, figuring out when they're moving forward and keeping in lockstep with them.
Very good. Well, thanks, Jim, for taking us through the demos and tolerating my antics as I go back and forth with you in those. Until next time, everybody, thanks for joining. We will connect with the questions that we didn't get to answer, and Jim will reach out personally and connect with you on those. And until next time, thank you for being here, and we'll talk to you all again soon. Take care. Bye-bye.
Take care, everybody.